Hello again. Britain's Royal Air Force is at the forefront when it comes to being keen on having an organisation which reflects the diversity of our society. Unfortunately, white men find it easier to pass the various aptitude tests used in recruitment than do either black people or women. The result is that with a level playing field, our RAF pilots would nearly all be white men. This has, of course, been the situation historically since the establishment of the RAF in 1918, and those who want to increase diversity are getting pretty ticked off about it. In an email dated January the 19th, 2021, Squadron Leader Andrew Harwin, who worked in the Officer and Aircrew Selection Centre of the RAF, wrote, "I noted that the boards have recently been predominantly white male heavy. If we don't have enough BAME and female to board, then we need to make the decision to pause boarding and seek more BAME and females from the RAF. I don't really need to see loads of useless white male pilots. Let's get as focused as possible. I'm more than happy to reduce boarding if needs to have a balanced BAME female male board." What this amounts to, when you cut through the jargon, is that white men were rejected as pilots not because they were useless in the sense that they were not up to the job or unsuitable for training courses. They were not. They were useless from the point of view of building a racially diverse air force, one where half the pilots will be women and there will be at least a fifth of the air force composed of black people. In other words, their uselessness relates to the colour of their skin rather than any shortcomings in aptitude or intelligence. I cannot offhand think of any other word for this than racism. Rejecting candidates for a position based solely on the colour of their skin is racism. And that's all that can be said. We can be sure of this because the RAF have agreed to pay 31 white men £5,000 each in compensation in recognition of the fact that they were unfairly disadvantaged by the recruitment policy. You see, the whole practical aim of recruitment was really to get black people and women as pilots. This is nothing to do with equality or a colour-blind approach. That's been operated for a long time. No, the intention was to prevent white men joining the RAF and only take black people and women so that the Air Force became more diverse. The fact that it was the white men who did best in the test was neither here nor there. You don't want an Air Force full of white men. It looks lousy in photographs. If this means accepting less well-qualified people so there is more diversity, then so be it. The RAF are embarrassed about the whole business and they still wish to press ahead with making the Air Force diverse. It's not hard to see what the consequences will be. One only need look at what happened in the United States Navy when there was similar pressure, not so much over race, but gender. On the 25th of October 1994, a woman called Cara Spills Holtgreen was killed as she attempted to land a fighter plane onto an American aircraft carrier on a routine training mission off the coast of San Diego. Holtgreen had achieved fame briefly for becoming the first woman fighter pilot in the American Armed Forces. Her accomplishment was a subject of controversy, though, after her death, for it was alleged that there was political pressure on both the Air Force and Navy to produce a female pilot in order to demonstrate that there was no sexism in the armed forces. Rumours, which were later confirmed, suggested that men were overlooked for qualification so that the Navy could produce a female fighter pilot. Holtgreen had failed her first test, and there were those who said she wasn't of sufficiently high calibre to be a pilot landing aircraft on the decks of an aircraft carrier. There was also a suspicion that the Navy had rushed the process of allowing Holtgreen to qualify because they were determined to beat the Air Force in having a female fighter pilot. How true all the stories about Cara Spears Holtgreen are is still a matter of debate, but there can be little doubt that there was a fixed desire to appoint a woman as a fighter pilot on ideological grounds, in the interest of diversity and inclusion. Britain's Royal Air Force is under similar pressure from above to ensure that black people are allowed into the service without the tiresome necessity of passing some tricky aptitude tests. And the same thing goes for women. In the description to this video, I give a link to a news item on this subject. Discriminating against white people because their skin is white is racism. It's not acceptable.